It's snowing out and your stove's probably leaking, and I'm going to help you fix it. So with this stove here, it's about what you have when you tear apart your stove. You're going to take off your sheathing on top of on the sides of your stove. And in this case, the roof was left on. I don't care, that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the underside of this thing, because what was going on is you'll see on the bottom side of your stove that it's wet. And it's because the ash has eaten into the bottom of your water jacket on your stove. Now I've done 5 stoves or so, and looky right here. See how this edge seems wetter than the rest of it? Dry, wet. That's where you have pits eaten in your stove, and that's from the ash. And I think in this case what's happening is water is activating the ash, and it eats the metal when it's wet. So you don't want wet ash, because it will activate the corrosive material that's in the ash. So that's what we got to do, is we got to plate this. This is how you fix it. You're just going to plate it. I'm going to put a chunk of 4-inch by 1/4-inch plate, whatever I can fit down the bottom of it. I'm going to weld it in. Weld it in solid. Can't be any porosity in your weld, so there's going to be a lot of preparation. That's how you fix them. Sometimes the insides of the stove will get a crack, particularly stainless. So let's say this edge here on the inside of that water jacket, you'll have a stress crack typically from the stainless water jackets. This here should be just steel. I'm not sure. I'm almost wondering if there is stainless on this, but I believe it's all steel. So with stainless steel, it's actually kind of hard to address the cracks and the corners on the inside. Underneath all this, what do you call that? Tar. All the tar's got to go, and we got to clean it really, really good. So you're going to use a wire wheel and a grinder, and you're going to get that shiny. The shinier the better. If you want a good weld, it's got to be clean. You don't want to weld the tar. You're not going to have any success with the welding anything crappy. All right, next thing you're going to do is get yourself some flux core and argon. If you don't have argon, I better weld it hot, because you're probably not going to have a seamless weld. Next, if you don't have argon, weld it 3 times. And the more the better. That way you know you got it. So however you got to do it, that's what you got to do. Weld it 3 times. Now if you got a buddy that can help you get argon, go in on it. I don't know. Figure it out. That's the only way you're going to do it, unless you're going to use stick. And if you use stick, that might work. But just go with a 60-10. 60-10 handles dirty material better than 70-18. But 70-18 is good. That's kind of a mild steel structural welding rod. So 60-10, 70-18, stick weld. You'll be all right. Just go over your welds several times just to be sure you got all the seams good. Now, that plate is going to go right here. If you want to, you can overlap your plate like this. Overlap your plate like this, and then you weld down in that seam. Now that'll give you a ledge to weld to, and you'll have more success that way. Now, next thing is, how do you have your stove set up? Do you have it on a sawhorse? Do you have it on some 2x4s? Something that's going to prop it up off the ground so you can work on it. And you're going to have to use your own judgment on that one. So I think all this water is right here is dripping. I'm not really going to know where it's coming from until I start cleaning it up. I'm going to clean the edge of this here too, a couple inches, to be sure that the gas is coming off of that. Don't interfere with my welding process. Yes, you got to clean it. If you want a successful weld, you got to clean it. So you will thank me later. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to stop and clean it, and whether or not I can set my phone somewhere, I'm not going to show you. I'm just going to clean it, and then I'll show you the after. Got this thing teetering on the sky track. You can use a tractor, I don't care what you do. But it's up in the air, so I can clean it, and that's what I'm doing. Ugh. Looks like diarrhea or something. I think you'll be taking that off a good 6 inches because I'm starting to see the porosity at 3 inches into that water jacket. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to clean it the rest of the way and then we'll go from there. All right, that's about what you got to do. Take it back a little way, clean it. That way you don't have any gases messing with your weld. Still have to flip this over. Let me show you right here. There's a pinhole, a big giant pinhole, and then somewhere in here there's a crack started. I think that is kind of just a thin spot where it was welded before and it's either eating through or the weld was kind of defective. Now, right in the middle of this stove, up top here, right there, is where you fill the water jacket and prime the system. Now, every time that gets overfilled, it drains down the side, and then boom, that's how you get the water, and then activates the ash down below. So, gotta watch how you fill the system, because if that water comes down the water jacket and into cavity where the ash is at, it's going to activate the ash and it's going to start eating away the material. Same thing on this side, right in the middle of the stove. That there is a literal crack, I guess you'll say. It's just eating away at it. So now the trick is getting this thing on sawhorses or 2x4s, whatever you got, get it on its side. And the roof, I would have probably taken that off, but I will try to deal with it. And if it is a problem, then I guess I'll just deconstruct it myself, because all that is just a few bolts on the corner, and you should be able to just actually lift it straight up and off. Looks like maybe the problem was this extra extension on the chimney was limiting them from lifting that off. So yeah, we'll figure it out one way or another. And then on the inside, I have another problem to address that's leaking around the door, and I'll have to clean that too. All right, gotta clean it the rest of the way. We get the rest of that crap off of there. The tar, it's not rust, that's just tar. Actually looks pretty decent, other than the spots that I've already mentioned. That there you can see are a lot better. I think it's just been eaten through. And you know, a lot of times when you start welding on it, you'll actually find all the thin spots on it, so it could look a lot better than what it really is. And there's actually sediment inside here. It would make a lot of sense to flush the whole system out, because I bet you, I had my fingers in here before, but I bet you there's a bunch of sediment right here, right in that hole on this bottom port. I don't even know what that is, but that has to get flushed out, and that there could be, you know, causing some of the corrosion problem too. If you never tried out a disc like that looks like this, you can probably find it at Harbor Freight or whatever, whoever's going to hold them. These are really worth having, and they make a really nice smooth surface when you grind. Stone grinders are pretty rough and it's hard to work with them, so invest in something like that. This is a 3M Cubitron grinding disc, so do your research, get yourself one of these, worth the money. Tried using the flap disc, didn't work probably as good as I'd like it to. It's not aggressive enough. So this is what I consider a clean surface. Thing to note is try to get these welds kind of feathered in and flush, so when your plate comes over top of it, you're not going to have too much of a gap between the material and the plate you throw on. And just try not to get too carried away, because this material is kind of a thin gauge. You only have that quarter bead, and that's all that's holding it in place. Otherwise, you'll gut that thing and you'll have another problem. So be a little bit conservative, just get it flat, and as long as it's flat and you know you can fill the gap that is going to be in the edges, you should be all right. I'm going to bring the surface back a little bit and get it clean, and I would say 3 inches might be good. So supposedly there's some sort of crack here, not found it yet. Might be over this way. I think it's on the seam, and we'll have to look at that. Want to when it comes to cleaning the surface, I'm going to switch back to the wire wheel, because when you're cleaning the rough stuff, it's going to clog the Cubitron discs and you'll get it full of crap. So then the Cubitron don't want to cut the surface very good. So you'll go back to the Cubitron and etch the surface with the Cubitron and get that nice shiny surface so you can prep for weld. So I'm going to go along here with the wire wheel. Okay, I found the problem and the leak, and I'll show you the video. That weld is broken, so it's just going to be a matter of cleaning it, and I'll probably try to take that weld back a little bit, and I'll mess with the surface until it's clean. Problem is that okay, problem with the crevices and the cracks, if you don't get them clean, you're gonna have the gases popping back at you, and you're gonna get porosity. So you can probably heat that up really red hot, and then you need to spank its butt with a needle scaler and beat it until the carbon is knocked out of there. Okay, now you can address the crack, and you should be able to weld it at that point. So if you need to cleanse the sins, you're gonna want to heat it. So I'll have to grind it, clean the surface area, bring it back a little way so the gases don't interfere with the weld and the argon, and now I'll be able to weld. And I believe that's it. I actually have a better trick for you if you want to clean a crevice or crack like that, and only a few of you will be able to do it if you have the machine to do it, and that is to use a plasma cutter. Plasma cutter will have a plasma arc, and when you first start it up, you pull the trigger and you'll see the arc. It'll go off for a few seconds, just depends on the machine. Sometimes it's only like 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, and then it goes out. And other machines will actually last enough time to actually work with the arc on the end of your tip to clean the surface to prep for weld. So what you do is don't hook up the ground. That's the trick. Don't hook up the ground, and use the plasma arc off your plasma cutter, and you will take it to the crack and you etch it and just get it hot, and you'll tell the difference on whether or not it's clean, and use your own input on whether it's good enough. Okay, that was 2 hours, and that was all the cleanup preparation for the most part. Now it's just about getting the welder out and wrapping everything up. It's full, and I found one leak on it. Everything else is good. Right here, this is just a small bit of leak, barely leaks at all. I think I might have to do something about that. Everything else is dry.